Ben Sulayem has seen himself gaining even more power in the new restructuring of the FIA, as it looks like the president of the FIA, as well as the Senate president, Carmelo Sanz de Barros, have more power within the organisation. The new assignment of responsibilities within the FIA is yet to be reviewed by the drivers and given their verdict, but it comes at a very questionable time when Ben Sulayem has been highly criticised for the majority of his decisions. With this in mind, as well as the permanent stewards issue, can Sulayem withhold all of the pressure and, more importantly, can he emerge victorious out of it? It's safe to say that Ben Sulayem and the FIA have been two of the most bashed parties in the sport recently, and whether or not the reasons are correct, we'll leave you to be the judge of that. However, the recent meeting within the inner circles of the FIA has seen Sulayem receive even more power, and for instance, the audit committee would not be able to launch a financial investigation without the request of the president. These changes come for various reasons, but one of the most important ones is to stop the leaks to the media that are doing nothing but harm to the governing body. In an official letter, Ben Sulayem and the FIA wrote, first, to preserve and enhance the independence of the Ethics Committee by reducing the involvement of the FIA administration in its operation. The Ethics Committee previously only reported to the President. It now reports to both the President and the President of the Senate. The committee now has the power to independently assess whether or not to launch an investigation. Second, as a result of continuous leaks to the media of confidential material, including Ethics Committee reports, it is now proposed that the distribution of any Ethics Committee report will be limited. The aim of the changes is to clarify that the Audit Committee is an advisory body to the Senate and that it shall operate within the limits of the FIA statutes. Be that as it may, the controversy around Ben Sulayem isn't simmering down at all. The drivers have asked for certain changes and announcements that the president of the FIA has declined immediately. For example, George Russell was baffled as to how many firings have happened within the FIA and asked the president to inform the drivers and the teams about any potential changes in the future. To which Ben Sulayem said that when something changes within the inner circles of the teams, the governing body is not informed and it shouldn't be. Therefore, such changes are problems for the FIA and the FIA only. And this is something that received a lot of support from team bosses like Toto Wolff and Christian Horner. As long as these changes are good for the overall process of racing, then we have nothing to worry about. Elaborating on this situation to a greater extent, Horner has been the first to defend Ben Sulayem, saying that it's the team principals who are signing by the dotted line to abide by the regulations from the FIA. Furthermore, he said, well, Ben Sulayem is absolutely right. It's down to the FIA, being the regulator of the sport, to write the regulations and police the regulations. And when you sign up for the championship at the start of the year, you sign on the dotted line to abide by those regulations. So it's not the team's job to write regulations, and nor should it be, because it would be too much of a conflict of interest in terms of what the intention of those regulations was. So he is absolutely right that it is the FIA to police and regulate the sport. However, there has been one request that has particularly aggravated Ben Sulayem, and that is the fact that the drivers are asking for permanent stewards. This would benefit them a lot because when a certain decision is brought in one race, they can go to the same steward in the upcoming weekend and ask for a change or file a complaint. Right now, with the rotating stewards, the drivers and team principals have nobody to complain to because it's just simple as that. The current ones are not the ones that gave the penalty in the previous weekend, so they can't change it, nor can they judge the way that steward reacted and judged in that race. Ben Sulayem is all down for this to be implemented. However, he stated that the biggest obstacle would be the financial backing, and he asked the drivers to pay from their own pockets if they want to see this change happening in the first place. Elaborating further on this, he said, it's nice talk, but when they say professional, they want professional. They don't want to pay for it. That is so obvious. They talk and then they say, where are you putting the money? Why don't we do this? But I don't say, Oh, sorry, what about you? The drivers are getting over $100 million. Do I ask where they spend it? No, it's up to them. It's their right. So please, it's not only me saying it is none of their business. We do whatever we do with our money. It's our business. It is also the same with the drivers and their money. It's their business. But I don't really sometimes understand. It's always about the FIA. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? But did anyone go to the FOM? There seems to be a huge discrepancy between these agreements, and obviously the greatest issue is that the FIA doesn't have the money to pay the stewards' request from the drivers. It's definitely something that Ben Sulayem would want to see in the sport, but as he said, the process of finding stewards, let alone keeping them throughout the entire 24 race calendar, is astronomically difficult and requires tons of money that the governing body doesn't have. Furthermore, he added, I say it again and again, stewards do not grow on trees. It takes time to educate them. It takes time to train them, and then you evolve them so we have a program. I see the point about having them maybe like the Premier League where the referees are paid, but we don't have the money to do that. And another very controversial situation has been the community service penalty that Verstappen served in Rwanda when the FIA's council was held, as the 27-year-old didn't want to make too big of a fuss about it and did what he was required to do. The FIA thanks him for the service, but Ben Sulayem has gone to the extreme of saying that maybe this doesn't need to be understood as a penalty, but a mandatory rule for every driver when it comes to retaining or gaining their super license, because they are giving back to the community. In this situation, the community was composed of thousands of kids who were responsible for racing the karts in Rwanda, and when talking about it, Mohammed was full of praise for the work of Verstappen, adding, "We went there and Verstappen really fulfilled his promise. He was there, he was with the young girls and boys who built the car, and then there were also the girls who were in the car for the first time for them and karting. So there were about hundreds of them." What is a positive from this entire situation is that the FIA has finally turned a profitable year due to a significant reduction of operating costs driven by an increase in revenues and savings. Right now, the FIA forecasts an operating result of $2.3 million in 2024, which is a remarkable improvement given the fact that it stood at a $25 million loss back in 2021. The forecast operating result would be the best of the last 7 years, and most importantly, the first positive one since 2018. And results like this do show that Ben Sulayem knows what he's doing, whether we like him or not, and whether we pay respect to him or not. Of course, this is all backed up by Liberty Media and the massive popularity boost of the sport. But what's worth noting is that this is, however, non-relatable to the operations that the FIA does. While it helps, it's not fully related to the boost of the FIA because they are working on their own regime and program focused on the technical aspects of the sport, such as the regulations, rule changes, and partially in the number of teams that would race on the grid. Be that as it may, Ben Sulayem has proudly said that the achievement is a result of the commitment and reform of the organisation in the areas of governance and finance, as he inherited a financial situation that was not sustainable back in 2022. So, with all this in mind, do you think that the FIA and the F1 drivers will finally find some common ground to stand on, or do you think that the restructuring and the new position of Ben Sulayem that gives him more power will do the exact opposite? Let us know what you think in the comments below.